Hey guys, this is Killrob speaking, and today I have a pretty huge usability update for you. We are going to take a look at the full process of building a car today and see what has changed. And we have had so many little updates, probably like 2 per day or something, that it will be hard for me to keep track of all the changes. But anyway, we are going to just build another car and see what comes out of it. I will skip the design process as that takes a while. So I'll be right back. So here we are. It seems like I have built a brick. It is massive and one of the new cars in the game, as you might see. And now we just go through here. Well, standard stuff I've chosen. I will make it rear-wheel drive and pretty cheap suspension stuff. All the heavy things, corrosion-resistant steel, and all the fixtures on there already. Chosen the color. This, of course, is not the final version yet, and there's more to come. There are a few fields here on the side, which are all hidden and invisible. No, they're just not there yet. Where you can save your own template colors later on. Oh, that's planned at least. And will be in the next update. So we are going to make this one rear-wheel drive and build the appropriate engine. And as you already know, building an engine nowadays, let's put a V8 into it, is split into determining the family of the engine and then building the model of the engine. So first tab is family tab and then the model tab. I will go through and build an engine fitting for the car, and then we take a look at what comes up for tuning that engine. One little change I want to show you along the way is that we said to ourselves, if we have nice animations for the engines, why not use them? So what we have done now is to, whenever the engine is being built and there are at least some pistons on there already, that the engine slowly turns by itself. So the whole thing looks a bit more alive. And here we have come to the final testing screen of the engine designer. And as you can see here, while the graph is still not running, well, the engine looks like it is. It's just doing the little animation thing until I press the button. But also, as you can see, no longer, if you might recall that at one time was that we had the graph on the side and then decentered the camera. Well, that is not the case anymore. This is not a faked positioning, but actually the viewport is resized such that you have normal controls in this window and it doesn't render in the background here. And we have a new fancy layout for the graphs, and now let's run this engine. Oh yeah, there we go. As expected from a big 5-liter pushrod engine, V8 pushrod engine. Not that much power, but we have a pretty low cam profile as well. So yes, you can. Well, this is not boost. This line is supposed to be green. But anyway, still a few bugs in there, of course. But now let's say we want to tune this engine, and as you remember from last video, this has improved quite a lot from a usability standpoint, but there are more graphical improvements and usability improvements. So here we are in our first proper tab, and we can change bore and stroke, of course, and see everything which is in there. But now what we have added is each tab now has some relevant stats shown as the bottom 5 stats, and the general stats which don't change, which are always shown on top. So that makes things a bit easier. So on the bottom end tab, like this one, or the internals tab, you indeed need to know about smoothness, and because pistons have quite an effect on emissions, as you can see here, I have now selected the forged one, and you can see, whoa, emissions increased a lot. but fuel octane went down and material costs almost didn't change. But anyway, this will be really handy to directly see the change of all the relevant stats for this tab. And also, as you can see, you can have a direct impact on the quality here, and you see how things are changing. It's really handy. On the next tab, compression. Of course, for compression, you will be interested in emissions and fuel octane, but also smoothness, because as you might recall, we very recently changed that cam profile affects smoothness. So higher cam profile means less smoothness. And you see all the effects really nicely there while your cam profiles are changing, and you can fine-tune your engine. And the performance index, of course, always gives you an update on some kind of proper estimate for how the engine will perform in the finished car. And we are using 95 here, so if we ramp it up a bit in the compression, you will see that, whoop, now it's knocking, and we go back, and yeah, oil is good again. There. Okay, so naturally aspirated. And what do we have here? Of course the fuel mixture, and again, what is important here is definitely responsiveness. As you see in upping the slider, responsiveness increases drastically. And this whole thing is really, if you were really into automation, you would have figured out all these things by now anyway. But to a newcomer, this indeed is a huge help, that you directly see the effects of your changes. And not all the effects of your changes either, but only the really important ones. So we hope that this lowers the threshold of entry, or the difficulty curve a bit. Definitely needed for the Steam release. Yes, so we are kind of satisfied here. I'd say we can up the ignition timing a bit more without making it knock. And the power curve looks fine. Maybe not rev it quite as high. You see that reliability increases a bit, but yeah, it's not too drastic a change. And that's why nothing is working properly. So let's give it a proper exhaust. Like race exhaust. No race exhaust. And for here, what would you expect there to be? Well, loudness of course, and emissions, as we can go with no catalytic converter and have horrible emission ratings. Yes, so all this seems to be working nicely, and then you are going to your final test bench again, and you're basically done already, without having to jump back and forth. Isn't this amazing? Now let's take a look at the trim designer. Many a thing have changed in here, and this car definitely needs an automatic and 6 gears, and not being as slow. So as you can see, the graph layout in here has changed as well, and it's very easy to tune your car now. So we just put a maximum power at the estimated top speed of whatever gear we wish. This would be of course an overdrive gear right now, and maybe it's a bit long still. Let's drop it down and go up with the top speed such that it's more overdrive and a bit shorter gearing down below. And let's see, the tires. This section here is a bit in a revamp stage right now. We are currently, the buttons are confusing, as the iconography here is showing front and rear, as you can see, but the buttons are still the other way around. And what we want to do with this little redesign is just to get it a bit more consistent with the rest of the UI design, in that we have the tire parameters, just listing tire parameters, the name here, and then all the individual parameters down in the box instead of having a weird headline there. And the rear is the driven wheels, so let's give it a bit wider tires. This doesn't look too awful in width. Let's go with that, but we want to put them a bit further out. Otherwise the wheel arches look like you just were pimping your car, and that's not something we want to do. And This definitely looks like a two-seater to me. Let's put in 5. Standard infotainment. Oh, that's a very modern brick. And power steering. It looks light enough to not put in power steering, I reckon. Traction control. Nope. Who needs traction control? And standard safety, all bog standard, yes. Alright, so we have the suspension tab. Let's put in some progressive springs for all the softness at the start. And nothing advanced there, nothing advanced there. And just choose comfort for now, and we'll see how it pans out. And as you can see, we are also having a bit of a redesign here. We've made these buttons a bit smaller to give all the rest of the sections a bit more space. And that will be looking a bit more consistent then as well, and not as cramped. Okay, now we're on the final testing tab, and as you can see, whoa, what happened here? The start button is gone. Yes, the start button is gone because the calculations have sped up so much that it will be ridiculous to have a start button when everywhere else the calculations happen automatically. So I'm not going to do that. This car looks perfectly awful. So, and oh yeah, another change, as you can see. We have put the scrolling between different test modes up here. So now you can go to test mode and then, oh, where's the start button for the test track? Well, now it's up there. Makes perfect sense. We have also revamped a bit of the layout here, as you can see. The track choices are here. And, well, the telemetry button still doesn't do anything. And it will do nothing in the Steam release, so we better get rid of it before then. That will be a later thing. It's low priority for now. And yeah, you get all the statistics. You can still have the detailed stats mode if you're into that. But nowadays, you probably don't want to use that as much anymore. Like the hardcore tuner will still find some useful information in there. But what is even more useful is to do the following workflow. You go through your car design once, and then you start at the beginning of the trim again. So now you have your the same layout with your main car stats up here and the relevant car stats for the tab down here. And as you can see, we have massive amounts of wheel spin. So let's see what we can do about that. First of all, we can change the gearing like this. It didn't do too much to the wheel spin. Automatic, that's not too good. Maybe it's the open diff, and here you can see all the changes happening in real time while you change things. So let's put a viscous diff on there, and you can see, yeah, it's a bit better. Probably want to give this even a bit, 200 kilowatts traction control. Yeah, maybe. And let's say we're all satisfied with that, and we continue onwards. In the wheels tab, you want to have the yaw rate graph and the grip graph, and you want to know your 0 to 100, the 100 to 0, and the wheel spin factor. So let's see what happens if we up that. As you can see, wider rear tires. This tooltip still is in the way of things. Of course, we're going to fix that. But as you can see, things are changing in real time again. This is already perfectly set up this way for maximum tameness. And as you can see now, we have some nice naming up there, the yellow line, which hopefully explains the graphs a bit better by just looking at that. Definitely the yaw rate graph needs a proper explanation though, as that is a bit too technical for most people to understand, even if they are into cars, I would assume. I don't know, because, well, I'm a car moron when it comes to it. Anyway, the steering behavior, of course, understeer, oversteer. The sporty trim would be to put the marker on the red line, and the tame trim would be to put it on the blue line. And we have the marker on the blue line. For here you see the normal acceleration again, and let's see how changing the rims changes things. Quite significantly for a pretty low cost, like 0.2 seconds from in your 0 to 100 time for such a car. That's interesting. But good old steel it is. Let's continue on. The braking tab. Now that is really handy, of course, as you've seen in the latest update, probably, I guess, Oh, did I show that? This is really handy. So now you have your tire performance versus your brake performance for front and rear. And as we can see, well, the brakes are below the potential force the tires can provide. So you have really shitty brakes. Let's change that. Like free piston. Bam. Much better. Much better. It's decreased the 100 to 0 distance by 3 meters already. But as we can see, it's still not perfect. It should be over all speed limits, so over the maximum force from the tires, so that you always have a bit more braking potential there. So we up the size here, and we can see how it changes. This looks like a pretty good level to me. The brakes fade, decent. We have, we have lots of fading. That's bad. We have lots of fading. But we are going to change it a bit later. The rear brakes, surprisingly, were quite well chosen. We have to up the strength a bit, though. So let's up the size. This is looking pretty good. So the only problem we're having now is that these brakes are fading horribly. It's, as you might have noticed before in your designs, when you are jumping back and forth between the detailed stats page and your braking page, you will see that choosing a vented disc brakes definitely helps the brake fade, as they should. Putting carbon ceramic on there would be even better. So now we have a bonus to tameness, which is really significant. You've paid quite a bit extra to get the vented discs and up the size and stuff, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. Alright, this car is getting a bit heavy. What is the aero tab saying? Still, the downforce graphs are wrong with the calculations, while the data shown in the final testing tab is the correct one. We are going to fix that. Still haven't gone around to it, but now you can see, oh yeah, one thing I would like to mention is the cooling airflow. In the version you are playing, you can gain massive amounts of reliability by just giving the car more cooling, and here you do not get that much. So what we have done is, instead of giving you a flat bonus per cooling capacity, we are now looking at the difference between the current status of your reliability and 100 and scaling it with that difference. So no more huge gains there. But still realistic ones. You can still, if you have really proper cooling and you want to be hardened for really hot summers and you don't want to have any breakdowns there, then yeah, give it extra cooling and you won't run into trouble. I cannot show you active wings and stuff here, of course, because this is a brick, but things are working nicely there as well. In here, you can see how much difference the different packages make for car weight and the performance of the car. Pretty interesting stuff as well. I'm not going to change that now. But we're coming to the suspension tuning, and oh, look at this. The horrible, horrible bump graph now looks usable. Isn't that amazing? As we can see here, this is the wheel travel, the yellow and the blue, the red line, while the body travel is indicated for front and rear by the blue lines, and we can tune it such that you now can, well, you can see what happens if we tune it there. More oscillation from the tire is easily achieved by softening the dampers, of course. Not always good. To a degree it's better for comfort, because it also gives better absorption for the body travel. But if we change things around, you can see, yeah, now we're getting a nice flat curve here. Comfort increased a lot. We basically lowered how much the body jumps due to this bump. So yeah, the presets are a very good starting point, as always, but now tuning the suspension properly is much easier, and you will have a a better graph to go after as well. Yeah, that is basically it. So now we have set up this car and consider it done. I hope you enjoyed viewing all the changes. Now that was a damn long video. Anyway, see you guys next time.